Hello everybody and welcome back to our brute forcer, and in the previous video all we did was specify the page URL, which needs to be correct in order for this to work, and we also prompted the user for the actual username. We also implemented a brute force function, or we didn't implement it, we only called it, and right now we want to implement that function for our program. So let us go up here, we can implement it right here, def brute force, the actual things that we parse is the username and the URL. So make sure to add the two dots, and what we want to do right now is only iterate over these passwords in our list. So for password, in the passwords file that we opened, so for password in passwords, first of all, if you notice right here, we want to strip the password of anything that might present us a problem. So right here, for example, this new line, then /r, and anything basically that could present the problem. So we'll just use the function strip on our passwords. In order to do that, basically we did it a bunch of times, so nothing really there to explain. We will just redo the password variable to be equal to password.strip. So next thing we want to do is we can just print right here the passwords that we are currently trying. So right now we can just print right here, trying to brute force with password, and then we want to add the password itself. So we will just add space and then plus, and we will concat the string of the password itself. Now the next thing is the most important thing for this program is to actually create a dictionary. So we can just call it data_dictionary. So you can call it anything you want, and dictionary is basically referred to with these curly brackets right here. So it is not the same for the list, or it is not the same for the normal brackets. This is how we can create a dictionary. Now what dictionary will take is the key and the value, and I will just show you once again, as we saw in the previous video. We are interested in these usernames and passwords, or basically name fields, for our input fields on the page itself. We are also interested in the name for the actual submit button, which is this login button right here. So we need to parse all of that to our actual brute forcer, or our actual dictionary. So let us do that right here. I'll just lower it so we can see both of these screens. We can see the HTML code, and we can also see the Kali Linux. So right here, first of all, let us parse the actual usernames, since that is what comes first. We know that the name field of the username field is just same username, so just specify right here username. And in order to divide the key and the value, you need to specify two dots right here and parse the actual next value. So username is the actual field with the name username. Simple as that. Now let me just explain what this actually does right here. It will search for the field under the name username, which is this field right here, and it will paste to that field this variable username that we created at the beginning of our program right here. We also parsed it to our function, so it will just switch it right here. The same we need to do for the password as well. As we can see, the name for the password field is just password, so make sure to first of all separate by comma, then in between double quotes, once again password, and then two dots, and the actual variable that we are parsing, which is the password variable. And the last thing we need to specify is the actual button itself. Now the actual thing that we are interested in is the class and the name of the button itself. The name is the first thing that we specify right here, which is login, under the double quotes, then two dots, and we can see that the button is type submit and class submit, so we want to specify also between the double quotes submit. Since this is not an actual variable that we specified in our program, we need to parse both of these values in the actual double quotes. So once you do that, basically most of our job is already done. All we need to do is forward this dictionary to the actual page itself. In order to do that, we need to perform a post request, which the requests library will help us do. So go next line, and what we want to do is create a response, and the response will equal this response variable. We catch the actual requests.post post. And this post actual function right here will, for our case, take two inputs or two arguments to this function. One of them will be the URL where we are posting, which in our case is the just URL or the page URL, however you want to call it, right here. So to this URL, we want to paste data, and the data is equal to our dictionary. So data underscore dictionary. Now, it is simple to understand. Basically, we are trying to connect to this page and parsing this data where it needs to parse it. It is simple as that. The Python basically does most of the things for us. All we have to do is specify these two lines, and these two lines are something that will change for every page you actually brute force. Or not really these two, actually only this line is something that you want to change if you want to brute force a different page. Everything else can be the same. Of course, you need to also change the link itself, but that is common sense. So what we want to do right now is check for the actual response once the username and password is incorrect. So you can see once we tried in the previous video, we get this login failed string printed to the screen. Now we will use that string in order to be able to actually realize once we got the password right and once we got the password wrong. So in order to do that, we can just type here if, and then the string of login failed. Now make sure to specify the same letters, otherwise this will not work. So it has to be the same. The best thing to do is to copy and paste it. And then if login failed is in the response variable .content, now this actual response variable will take an actual element of the content and it will check whether this string right here is in this content of our response. We sent a post request and we are checking back the response. If it is there, all we want to do is pass to the next password. If it isn't there, that means that we actually got the password correct and that we managed to log in. So we want to proceed to print right here with a plus username, and we can do something like this, plus the actual username variable that is currently in this part of iteration. And we also want to do with the password itself, password plus password variable. And we can just exit the program once we get the username and the password. There is no really need to continue brute forcing. So let us try out our program. Hopefully it will work right now. And if we chmod it in order to be able to run it, and we run our brute forcer, enter username for specified page. Now we can actually try with the wrong username first of all, since let us specify root to be, and we can see right here trying to brute force with password hello, trying to brute force with this, nothing really worked since we used the wrong username. But let us use a real username, which will be the username admin, and we can see once it reaches the password in our list, it prints out username admin, password admin, and it also quits the program. Now let me just check why do we get one last time trying to brute force with passwords. So let us fix that. Nano brute forcer.py. Okay, I think I know what the problem is. In our password list.txt, we actually have an empty line, I believe. So let us try it once again with a wrong password. Now this is not really something important. It is rather just for it to look better. As we can see, we managed to get rid of it. And also what we want to add to our brute forcer is, in case it doesn't really find the actual password in this list, we just want to print at the end of this program. Let us open square brackets, 2 exclamation marks. Password is not in this list. And we can just print that. Let us see how that will work. Root. And we can see everything works perfectly. Once we specify the actual list and the wrong username, we don't get the password, and once we specify the actual real username, we get password as the correct password for that website. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!